Hello, everybody. Hi. Okay, so I have a 15-minute presentation, but the clock looks different, so I'll either go fast or I'll go over, so sorry about that. I'm very proud to be here. When I heard that TEDxTokyo's topic was this, I wanted to get involved. I'm a big believer in Japan and what it offers to the world. I'm also a believer in Japanese culture in many ways. When I heard of TEDxTokyo, my first instinct was to think of TEDx Tora-san. Because Tora-san is an international icon in a way. He doesn't have much reach, of course, but I think he's a great symbol. And you're making a face over there, I see that. But I'll explain why. So first of all, art science is a great topic because art science is about what appears to be two different things. But if anything we learn nowadays is that everything can intersect and connect. It doesn't have to be misaligned. It is people that create the misalignment. It is people that can create alignment, I believe. Now, my own interest in this area has been in the governmental space. I'm arguing heavily in the US Congress to advocate for art education in America because I believe that art and design, creativity is vital to national security. We're talking a lot in America about STEM education, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and I believe that STEM alone doesn't lead to innovation, and so we're advocating heavily to turn STEM into STEAM, to add art into STEM. And thank you. This is active now in the U.S. Congress for the last year and a half. We lobbied to get legislation to put art into the America Competes Act, and more countries are curious what we're doing, and so we hope to adopt this in different countries as well. So on the STEAM side, I've been personally invested in this boundary between art and science. If the camera person is here, thanks. I woke up my old computer, by the way. He's very happy to be here. I used to make things for the computer like this that crossed art and science. I want to show you a few things. This is the reactive square. It responds to sound. It's very old, actually, but as you can see, if I talk, it changes. I can say, hello, hello. I can dictate, test, test, test. I made this by listening to Nishimatsu Fue, a friend of Terinuma-san over there, and it likes it a lot, so I'll play a little bit from her songs. So it gives you a sense of how I've always been making things, but I've always been inspired by Japanese art. And this was a little experiment way long ago. I have a few others I can show you. This is called Tap Type Write. It's a typewriter based completely in monochrome. I made this because in 1996, this kind of graphics was becoming very common, and my students were becoming much better than I was, so I had to give up. So this is my last piece. It was in black and white. It's all themed on a simple typewriter action. And there's 10 variations on it. Let's do this. I can show this one. This is sort of like a spin the type around. This is a ring of type. It's like flowers. This is a balloon. And so these kinds of things, I made a lot of them, over 100 of these types of experiments. And move back to the computer, please, the new computer. And it was a way to play with the computer when the computer was still just emerging. Now, as you know, the computer has changed a lot, but I find that I don't change very much at all. I look back to my own life to find different inspiration. And my life began at the tofu store in Seattle. You know, people find it strange in Japan when I tell them I was a son of a tofu-ya-san. But that's how I grew up. I grew up in this place in Chinatown in Seattle. It's a very simple place, and years later I asked myself how I changed life. It was because my father believed in education. My father believed that someday we could go to college someday. MIT or Harvard were the only colleges he knew. But he believed that someday you'll go to college, and it was about breaking out of the wall of what you believed was possible. And at TED Global, the first day at TED Global, this person spoke. His name is Admiral James Stavridis. He's the Supreme Commander of NATO. He's an amazing man. He was talking about how nations can no longer be secure based upon walls, building walls. He was saying how the only way nations can be secure now is to build bridges instead. Closed versus open. That's a brilliant thought. For the NATO guy to say this was amazing. And so, if anything, I think back to the tofu store, which was kind of like a wall. It was like a prison, basically. And in the prison, my father ruled. He just had that one vision: work hard, you must work hard. And so, going to college was working hard. It was the wall, and I left the wall. And I was kind of happy. And I went to MIT, and then went to Japan. I came to Japan to study art and design. And coming to Japan was another kind of wall for me, because I'm across many cultures, intellectual cultures, and also cultures. I'm American, born and raised, but I'm also Japanese as well, in different ways as well. And it's never been easy to be that person. Who's a cross-cultural person in here? There are many here. It's very awkward because you want to be in one, but you're never in one. You're in the other one at the wrong time. For instance, when I came to Japan, my name is John Maeda, everybody wants to call me John-san. And I couldn't figure this out. It always bothered me. And why is that? It's because when I was a child, my father, Yoji Maeda, in the Tofuya, whenever the okyaku-san come, I said, why don't everyone call you Yoji-san, Daddy? And he says, no, that's bad. They have to call me Maeda-san. A sign of respect. So I kept thinking, why does everyone call me John-san then, And so I tried to brand myself as Takeshi, my Japanese name, but so nobody cares. They call me John-san. So, which I found very awkward. But if anything, there's importance in a name in Japan. We know that. The characters matter. And my father told me when I was maybe 7 years old how his father had the Kokoro Zashi in his name, Kakuji, Maeda Kakuji. And he had it in his name. And he wanted to give it to me, this character, Kokoro Zashi, which as a child, I didn't understand what it meant. It's an interesting character, but I want to share with you my journey on the airplane, making a presentation for all of you, what that means. So, is it okay? Let's try this. So, first of all, TED stands for technology, and MIT gave me technology. But the E and D stand for entertainment and design. And these things came to me through culture. Through actually Japanese common culture, not the culture you see in the museums or the shrines, just from my father's view of Japan. Now, my father's view of Japan was all formed by things like this. Now, you have to understand, we had movie theaters. There was no cable TV or videotapes, and so we would watch Utagassen in June every year. And as a child, I'm like, what is this thing they're doing in the summer? What is this? I had no concept of it, but I knew every year I could see some incredibly strange people. I remember Suzenji Kyoko, kind of common, but sort of across different things, very interesting. I remember Go Hiromi, kind of like Lady Gaga of the time. And I'll never forget the crossover moment of this person, Matsumuro Kazuko, because she combined enka and popular together. It's crazy, right? So what is she? She has a shamisen, but she's popular. Is she cute or is she old? I can't tell. And so that's where I saw the culture of Japan, mashup. In Japan, mashups are okay, any which way. It's a powerful thing. That's point number one. Point number two is the Yakuza movies. My father loved these. These two men were the groundings of my family. My mother loved these guys. My father adored these symbols of manlyhood of Japan. Who knows who these people are? Can you raise your hand? So maybe half of you? Yeah, you got to check it out. But I mean, because they're only doing one of two things. They're going to go out and die, or they're going to go out and just kill people. And there's some combination of the two. And I always thought it's funny how every scene with Kokoro has a gravestone in it. There's always someone died, so I'm going to fight for that person who died. It's very sentimental in a way. But from that, I learned the concept of kyodai, brotherhood, deep, formed in blood, which is a Japanese value. Other value, this is Kozure Okami. Isn't that awesome? You're telling, you're telling this kid, like, if I die, you must die too for honor. It's just awesome, And like this guy was like James Bond because, as you know, Kokoro, he had this baby cart, not like a bugaboo, like this yuppie bugaboo. This thing could like shoot and everything, and so he'd like pull it out and machine guns would pop out. An amazing idea, really. And if you think about this, people talk about Batman, the tumbler. I mean, that was the old tumbler. So really, Japan has always embodied this idea of like putting your life on the line, training for all your skills, and using technology to help you out in a pinch. Other value, mitokomo. You know this moment. I was wondering, what the hell is he? What is that? But I knew it was important. But more importantly, I saw this idea in Japanese folklore that there are the peasants and there are the god-type people. And the god-type people are benevolent, aka the leaders will help you. They care about you. And I think Japan is a society that believes in the leader. However, in this day and age, it's hard to believe in the leaders. Not just in Japan, in every country today. It's a big question right now. This kind of leader is hard to imagine. This benevolent old guy who kicks butt everywhere he goes and saves people. A great concept. And it's a great concept because it's about benevolence, a leader that cares, that's omniscient. And then there's Gundam. And to many people, they see Gundam and they think, oh, that's like robots fighting whatever, so that's like shooting and stuff. But as all of you know who know Gundam, Gundam is very complex. It's about a young warrior who doesn't understand what he can do with his power.
じゃあ未来はアムロがニュータイプだと信じているのか。
そうとでも考えなければ、アムロのサイドセブン以来の働きは説明がつかないわ。
So this idea, he's basically a digital native who is able to use the mobile suit. And like everyone's like, how does he do that? And also, he struggles with the fact that he has this amazing technology, but this technology is killing people, which he has to overcome or understand as a warrior. So Gundam is very complex because it shows you how the warrior's soul is not so clean, it's not so clear. And also, he had this trouble because he knew he could use it the best. But even though he can use it the best, what will he do with it? How will his life be formed because of it? Was a common question. So it's about humanity versus technology. Then there's Asano Joe. You know this guy? So this guy keeps getting beaten up. And like he keeps getting beaten up. And then in the end, he beats up the other guy. So it's this idea that we will beat you to pulp, but I will come back. So this idea is common in Japan. And I want to say that in great creative people, because creative people have to work double hard to make a difference. And this is John Jay from Wieden Kennedy. And John Jay often teaches a class in New York. And he tells his students on the first day, you guys might be younger than me. You guys might be smarter than me. You guys might have more resources than me, but guess what you can't do? You cannot work harder than me. I can work harder than you. Pretty cool. But his hero is Asano Joe. So these iconic parts of Japanese culture influence a lot of culture today. Sento Chiro. So this idea, everyone know the onigiri scene? Yeah? So like, kind of lost, the main character's lost, and then finds the rice balls from her friend, and like, oh, I'm crying. Why are people crying? Because it's the moment of coming in touch with something you remember, something very human, the spirit of your being, food, the core basics. And we just had Mr. Suzuki here at RISD, thanks to Tai Ashita over there. He gave the honorary speech, and in his speech, he talked about how the Studio Ghibli approach to animation is to never go out in the field and do research. They never do research. They don't study things. They have to research their everyday life to make animations. And so this idea of the everyday life is so important, I think, in Japan. And then finally, Tora-san.
どこで何をしているんだろう、僕のおじさんは。
So this is his nephew saying, I wonder what my uncle is doing right now. What is he doing? And this is a great opening scene where Tora-san sees the old man and the young people who are not letting him sit down. And so Tora-san says, oh, I'll fix that. So he goes over to the old man and says, I'll tell them to go away. Don't worry, Oji-san. And he says, get out of the way, get out of here, let's go, move. And he says to Oji-san, I fixed everything for you. No problem, sit down. And the old man says, don't call me old man. And he says, what? He says, what? Well, it's okay, don't be embarrassed. Sit down, old man. And so old man starts then he's getting upset because the old man wants to fight him. And he starts beating up the old man. And then even the young people have to save Tora-san from beating up the guy. But this idea of Tora-san is so fascinating because it's a person who is always failing publicly. All the time. But every time he fails, kind of like Asano-jo, you want him to stand up again. But if anything, you're proud of him because you wonder, what will he do next? In the beginning he says, what is my uncle doing now? That wonder, that curiosity is possible because of a character like Tora-san. Now, going back to closing, Kokorozashi, this character to me made much sense later in life because as I could read kanji, I could see, this is two characters, warrior and heart. And if anything, I think this embodies Japanese culture, the idea of being a warrior with heart, or a heartful warrior. It's core to the ethos in Japan. And Tora-san, just before he died, he did one last interview. I'm not sure if who saw the last interview with Tora-san? Remember that interview? He talks about how Superman, people want Superman to fly. But in reality, Superman can't fly. I'm Tora-san, I can wave my hand. When people say, Tora-san, I'll wave my hand, but at some point I can't because I'm not superpowered. Now, on the one hand, you can read this as, wow, he has given up. He's old. He can no longer do it. Another way we read it is, wow, he spent his entire life devoted to this role, and he gave everything he had to it. So he really is that Kokorozashi, the warrior with heart. He's someone that symbolizes something that Japan may have lost, but still has inside its culture. And so we're optimistic about that. So in closing, all these values I talked about are values that have been influenced by different people in Japan. Persevere, humanity versus technology, to risk your life with technology, to fail to wonder, benevolence, kokorozashi, brotherhood, mashups, and finally, learn from new things. Many people over here have influenced me. Professor Ishii over there, thank you. Takakuta Terum over there. There are people here in this audience who I think represent the best of Japan and what it can do. And I'm confident that TEDxTokyo can help to spread this idea of Japan all over the world. Thank you very much.